Thank you. Luke Hurley, BSC Group, here on behalf of Simon Bale, the applicant. This is an oldie but a goodie. This was permitted back in 2014. I feel like I want to get up and point to something. Does this have a pointer associated?
It does. So hold
So that you're talking about? I don't know if your eyes up.
Hold that top button down and
That's
remove
right.
it. Put it in the screen and a circle will appear.
Do I have to hold it?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Now
Light.
highlight things.
I'm not sure if that's going to work.
Oh, let me
Let's
send
hold
these
off.
back out.
Let's hold off on that for now. Anyway, we'll give it a little kind of refresh background. So again, this was permitted back in 2014 for what's there now on the screen. Folks are probably familiar with it. I'm fairly certain you got a copy of the application. So 2014, it was permitted for the roadway coming through off of Perkins Road. I'm sure you all know where this is. I-93 is to the east, Perkins Road is on the west. There are several of the condominium units already in place. The hotel is directly to the north. Just beyond that is the self-storage and then the cigar shop and then 28. So as I say, you probably all know where this is. So what was permitted back in 2014 was the whole project for the entire roadway length, 2 stream crossings, some other shrub, forest and wetland complexes. We're gonna have some impacts associated with it. It was all permitted. What happened was they had carried out a portion of the project, the first 2 phases, but the permit had actually expired in 2019. They didn't get an extension on it, and because of that, the remaining impacts that are left for phase 3, which is the remaining phase to be done, we had to reapply for those wetland impacts because they didn't. Had they gotten an extension in 2019, they would have had 5 years to carry out the rest of the impacts. That permit lapsed, so we went back in and reapplied for the remaining impacts left on the, as I say, for phase 3, which is on the pictures on the screen. That is the area in red, which is left right now. Nothing has changed from the original proposal. The same roadway layout, the same stormwater drainage, the same number of units, the same road length, width, everything. The alteration of terrain permit was extended a couple years ago, so that extension was granted through AOT, so that's current. And they say just because the wetlands application had lapsed and all proposed impacts hadn't been carried out, we had to reapply for it. Can you scroll down?
Yep.
If you don't,
Tell me when.
I'll say when. Keep going. I apologize. I don't remember what
You know
number.
what page number it is?
I don't. I was just gonna say I don't remember what page number it is. I apologize. Go up, please, if you don't mind. One more. Yes, perfect. Just takes a look for the right goal. So on this screen, if you can see it, I don't know if you need to. I think you all have screen.
It's page 10.
Thank you. The area in red, as I noted, is phase 3. These are the remaining impacts to be carried out. So as I say, it's all the same layout. Everything is identical to what was proposed originally back in 2014. The Conservation Commission supported it, I guess, for lack of a better term. Originally, we've gone through the whole process. So the impacts that are remaining. I'm gonna try this thing, yeah. Is there a way for me to press this button without shrinking the screen?
If
Got
you
it.
hold it in,
Yeah.
that circle will appear and you can zoom in, you can highlight an area.
It's a short agenda, we get time, right? All right. I don't know, I can look at my plans. Is there a way for me to, can you zoom in?
I can.
Is that possible? This is a collaborative effort here. Really appreciate it. Perfect. That one we can open. All right. So there's actually 4 remaining impacts. The ones that you can see on here, it's essentially 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to do this thing again. Impact area 4 is right here. It shows down here, but you don't have to move the screen at all. I have the square footage numbers over here. So this is actually impact area 4. Again, as I say, the road layout is entirely the same as was originally proposed. Impact area 4 is for 110 square feet, right where that little cursor thing is in the middle. That's just a little bump out finger. Oh, and as a little backup, I did go out a few weeks ago and walk the entire length of the road, verify the wetland impacts, for the impact areas where they were before. Nothing has changed. The wetlands haven't gotten bigger, they haven't gotten smaller, but they haven't gotten bigger, so none of that has changed. The original delineation was done in like 2015, 14-ish. So obviously with the Wetlands Bureau, any delineation over 5 years old has to be verified and rechecked. And so that, I did carry that out too as part of the process here for the redo. Again, this is impact area 4, that's 110 square feet. Impact area 5 is this one up here, and that's just for the edge of the grading associated with, that's 2,220 square feet. Impact area 6, which is pointing to this right here, again, it's just a little nub of the wetland point that comes out. The old farm road farm path comes through right through here. There's a break between the stone wall, and there's the old farm car path cuts right through there. So this, again, is impact area 6, that is 250 square feet, sorry, right there. And then the original stream crossing is the same proposal as before. This is a tier 1 stream crossing. The drainage area, it's like 40 acres or something like that, very, very small. It really comes from the area up here on the right-hand side. As you know, going on Perkins from the north to the south, it comes up, kind of plateaus, levels off, and then drops down on the far southern side. So very, very small drainage area that comes into this. In terms of the current stream crossing standards we have, excuse me, this is still only a tier 1. So they're meeting the requirements of the tier 1 crossing. With the original design, it still meets all that, so we don't have to change any of that. So with that, it is 1,290 square feet of impact, and they're going to be putting in a 78-foot long, 1 foot by 2 foot box culvert to allow the water to continue to flow there. There was certainly water flowing through it now because we got all that rain, but then even as of last week when we had a fairly dry spring so far, all the snow melted, the rain did stop, there was still water flowing through that. So it is intermittent, it does dry out, so those are the impacts associated with that. That's really it. I don't know if you have any questions, if you need any more information on it. Some of you may have been part of the original process.
I don't know whether you were there or not, but I remember that
I remember walking it.
that bridge and culvert too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but that's what I say, some of us
Yeah.
were part of it the first time, so then there's some, new faces now too, so. But as I say, it's a fairly typical process when a permit lapses. If none of the work is done, then obviously we go back in for all of the work. If some of it was done, but not all of it was carried out, which it happens from time to time, then we just go in for the remaining portion of work that's there. And that remaining square footage that we have left out of this is 3,770 square feet total based on those 4 impact areas that I had noted. So, as I say, everything is the same. The plans are still the same. They didn't have to update anything because none of the plans have changed. And it's still all pertinent to what's being proposed right now.
So these are wetland impacts.
Correct.
What about buffer impacts?
There are buffer impacts associated with it. Look at the plans there. Yes, it is on the plans. I can find it.
It's just on the right of that.
Yeah, maybe if you scroll it, I think it's, if you pull it to the left, if possible, there is a table on the right-hand side. The other way, yeah. Yep, there it is, thank you. And maybe scroll in a little bit.
Where?
Yeah. So this way it shows the buffer impact. Yeah, the bottom portion, if you don't mind, if you could zoom in just a little bit on the bottom right.
No, it was. Okay.
And this again is for the total buffer impact for the whole project. And remember that phases 1 and 2 have been completed. So there's remaining buffer impacts to be
So is
considered.
buffer impact 4 occur on wetland 4? Because you had 7 wetlands, you only 4 buffer impacts.
No, it's for a different, it is on the plan, we would just have to. Just scroll up and find those areas. They are all on there, they're all pinpointed, it's just, they're all called out.
So, excuse me for asking again, but is wetland impact four associated?
No, I'm sorry, I understood your question, it was just, if you don't mind, if you can scroll out. It is on there, as I say, the buffer impacts are called out, it's just a matter of, maybe on the next plan down, I know it's on there. But it also may not. No, I'm sorry, you'll have to scroll back up. I'm sorry. That's, I believe that should be.
What is that?
Which one?
Do you remember which page it's on?
Done.
You had it
I think it's that one right there, yeah.
right there.
I just can't see anything. I can
Is
go up.
buffer restoration the same as buffer impact?
No, there were some original components of it where there was some restoration, some mitigation areas to be created, which are part of this portion of it that we're gonna be carrying out.
So we haven't found it.
Yeah, I apologize, I don't recall what plan sheet they're on. I was thinking more in terms of the direct wetland impacts.
Well, I think, are you leaning to the question is why is it, would there be a need for conditional use permit, or is that already been eliminated in the first plan?
Do our condition, do our conditional use permits expire the same schedule?
I don't believe so, I would have to check.
So I can go up on, that is the buffer impact plan that's right there, if you want, I certainly can't read it from here. But in order to, I was gonna say we could have it as the one plan, but, if Amy doesn't mind zooming in, the buffer impacts are associated with each
Is that 18?
area.
Clearly, I can't see.
I'm not sure which area buffer and
Yeah,
sign
it would be down on the bottom right. Yeah, that should, and those are the impact areas, it's just the buffer impacts are pointing towards it. So you can see, we can start at the crossing, that shows the two different areas of the buffer impacts, which is approximately 11,000 square feet of buffer coming in and going out for that road access coming through. And then the other ones are the bottom of the arrows. Yeah. And so there's maybe another 3,000 or so square feet of buffer impacts. Again, for the buffer impact where it says 1690, that area is for the most part done. We're talking about phase 3, which is from the buffer impact 1670 over to the right of the plan, which would be south on it. Those are the remaining buffer impacts that we carried out through that. So a rough number would be probably, I'm just very approximate without trying to do the math in my head, 15,000 square feet, because between the two buffer impacts on the right-hand side of the plan, you're looking at about 11, and then maybe another 25 or 3,000 or so, approximate, so I was leaning towards maybe 14,000 square foot of remaining buffer impacts for phase 3, which is the last phase of the project to be carried out.
And basically, this is slope grading, right?
For the road coming in, yes, where buffer impact 50, 70, 80 is, yep. For all of it, yes, I mean, some of them are direct impacts, you know, obviously for the road and or for grading, as you say. It's for what's associated with the road coming through. Certainly for the stream crossing, because it comes down fairly sharply off the Perkins Road into the site, then it curves around, so it's.
So that drainage continues south of your property
It starts on the south side, right-hand side of the plan, and flows through the middle of the site, south to north, down off the property to where the hotel is. I'm not entirely sure what it does down there, once it gets off-site, but yeah, it's just an intermittent stream that flows through the wooded shrub wetlands throughout the site. And again, the impact on the left-hand side of the plan has already been carried out. It's the remaining one on the right-hand side that is the last phase for this, for the access coming in.
So I noticed in the permit application that there were two boxes. One said, have you reduced road width? And the answer was yes. And then another one was, are you using bridges instead of culverts? And the answer was yes. But it's not clear to me whether that was referring to previous work or what. But I don't think, it's all culvert. There's no bridges, right?
There is gonna be a culvert for the phase 3, there's gonna be a,
Right,
One
but I
or
mean,
two
even
foot box
in
culvert.
in phases 1 and 2, there's no bridges, it's all culvert.
right, it's not culverted in the sense where it's a pipe, it's an open
Yeah,
box, so it's natural material on the bottom, so the water just flows through on natural substrate. It's not gonna be put into like a 12-inch concrete or,
right.
HDPE pipe, so it is culverted in the definition of it, but it's an open culvert.
And is this application gone to DES yet?
Yes. Yep, they're reviewing it.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not a real concern for me at least, but I'm wondering if they'll catch that. When we first were out on this property, I remember our main concern was wildlife connectivity coming down through that road. 78 feet is the length of that culvert.
Yes.
Is a turtle likely to hitch up his little socks and enter that long of a way?
You have to ask the turtles. We are working with Fish and Game on it. The original National Heritage Bureau report we had in 2014 had no hits. We had to re-up it, because obviously it expired. There were turtle hits within the application that came up, so we are working with Fish and Game on that. We're doing a coordination with them. So that's part of the process for it. We do have an open structure. We had worked that out before with EPA at the time, with Mark Sherman, who was with EPA before he retired. So we did do that open as opposed to just a culvert or something like that, just a standard pipe culvert. So there is through connectivity, but again,
2 feet wide and 1 foot high. Let's see, that's actually.
Yeah. but as I say, we're working with Fish and Game on it anyway through the coordination process through their new rules. So if they have any feedback on it, then we can work with them on that.
Remind me, because I think this is what I remember, that the elderly housing was like a totally different project, and it's not part of this project, or is it?
No, I don't believe so. But
Oh, is the elderly, I just feel like I remember that the elderly project was something else.
Yeah, my name is Carl Dubay, and I was involved in the original permitting and everything. We had pre-planned for elderly housing in those empty sections as we annotated there. We actually did all the sewer calculations and drainage and water supply and access and everything so that you wouldn't have any additional impact. So all those utility infrastructure, all that stuff was already pre-done for this and pre-approved. But we did not go to the planning board for any new development. And then, so we're almost done with this construction. Simon and his wife own the project now. They're sitting in the back there. And they'd like to move forward with the last phase. They're working with NIFA, it's inclusionary housing. And it's the last phase, so it's the last few buildings, the last 3 buildings on the site. We haven't changed anything. But we would love to go before the boards again and do something there. All the zoning has changed since then, so, you know, we don't know what the town would like to have there, if it would be elderly or something different, or, more inclusionary housing, or tiny houses, or assisted living, or, you know, whatever. It's really probably what the town would like to see. I think assisted living is still allowed in the zone, but I think everything else has been pretty much stripped out. But the overall design, everything, the impacts of the loop mentioned, they're all the same, no changes. It was all previously, you know, approved. We worked really hard with the town on this design, as well as EPA. You know, the buffer data is all shown in there, and EPA wanted us to show their buffers, and so there were state buffers, federal buffers, local buffers. We had all that in there, and it's all grown in nicely, just like we said it would, on the other construction we've already done, so. You know, the critters, they all go all the way through here. They go up on the road and back over again, and I think, EPA, I think they were talking about, that the pipes were okay, they were fine with that, as long as we had side slopes that were vegetated and coming up and over. The mitigation plans are still in there, obviously, to be finished. And, that's really about it.
Are you gonna be required to mow the side slopes?
No, I think they would only do the minimum amount of maintenance and let them grow in. So it's more of a meadow thing where you can hack it down, you know, once or twice a year, but if you go out there now, there's only minimal mowing, only for the sidewalk that's out there. There's a curvy linear sidewalk that we put in alongside the road, parallel to the road. But all those slopes and everything have been all grown in, and you never know the difference, and, you know, it's all naturalized and everything.
I think our only comment I would like to see in there is, we urge the planning board to follow the recommendations of Fish and Game regarding the crossings.
I would make a motion that we recommend to DES that we approve this renewal of the wetlands permit with Mike's comments.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh.
Sorry.
Opposed, abstained, okay, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to?
Thank you.
Susan?
Susan.
Oh, Susan's not here. So, Mike's folks can go first, Susan now.
Oh, see, I'm sitting here.
Throw my